This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing show favorite today. We get him on 5 or 6 times a year. I think he has made his semi-annual migration down to the Sunshine State in Florida, and we got all sorts of stuff to talk about. We got Bassmaster Opens, Bassmaster Open EQs, the Lane brothers fishing together in Florida. And then also a feel-good story that I also want to have a follow-up on that Charlie Hartley is a very big part of. So we'll kick things off by bringing the man, the myth, and the legend right into the show, and that is the one and only Charlie Hartley. You're muted again, Charlie. I know he had his
unmuted.
There you go. What's up, Charlie? How are you doing, man?
Great to see you, Matt. Yep, I did just make my pilgrimage down to my Bass Haven Saturday, all-day drive Saturday. Tracy and I left at like 3 a.m. and made it to our residence here in time for dinner. She was a trooper because she doesn't like driving straight through, and I kept coaching her on the cell phone. We followed each other down, and she actually broke her ankle a week before Leech Lake, and I had to cancel out of Leech.
Oh, no.
It's the first Bassmasters I've ever canceled out of, I think, in my life.
How did I not know this?
And she was literally in a wheelchair for about 3 weeks. It was tough. She had screws and plates put in her ankle. She graduated out of physical therapy like 3 weeks early, and she's already riding a bike again. So bless her heart for being so disciplined to get that repaired. It was very dramatic. She really broke her ankle. I mean, it was ugly. It was a bad deal, but she's all healed up, and we're in Florida. And I just want to say congratulations to you on your Master Angler Award, you and Matt Stefan. I've never met Matt personally, but between all his podcasts and with you, I feel like I know him, and he's a good friend. He seems like a super sincere person. And it seemed like you two got along really good. I don't think you had spent much time in the boat together. And sometimes when you get in the boat with someone, personalities clash, but you two seemed like you had a really good time.
Dude, it was so much fun. And you're absolutely right. Like, you can be buddies with someone and you get in the boat, and if it just doesn't mix, it's not that they're a bad person or you're a bad person or you don't just like each other, but like, sometimes you're bumping into each other, your lines are tangling, and you're like, come on, dude. And then sometimes those guys are such good friends, you just live with it. You know, for the next 50 years, you're going to be annoyed as hell fishing with this guy. But no, with Matt, like, it was smooth. Like, if you watch that video on the third day, he goes, man, a few words that time. And it came across like, I didn't realize how stressed I was that I brought him down to Oklahoma, talked all this stuff up. The conditions, the wind, we had come so close on 3 species, and like, it was more stress. So the most stressful things, I would put tournament fishing third. Number 1 is filming a TV show. Like, I do that Andrew Upshaw's Let's Fish TV. And, you know, when you get to like 3:30 p.m. and there's a storm coming in, and you've only got 3 fish catches, and you still have to catch 2 more, cut all the promos, and have a fish for the close, and it's just not good. That is stress, because you got a guy who's paying thousands of dollars in the back, and you know the thing's supposed to air the next week. It's not just you suck and go back and mope for a while. So that's number 1. Number 2 is when you bring someone else in and take their time, their energy, and their effort, and, you know, they're expecting something. Now, I know I've been in the other position, Charlie, and it's like, hey, you understand it's fishing once you get to a certain level, but still, there's a different level of stress there. I'm sure you've been in both of those situations. And then third is tournament fishing.
Yeah, you know, I've been on the guest end of the TV show, so I don't have the stress. But the host of the show, I've done shows with Zona and with Hook and Look, Kim Stricker, and they are not having as much fun as me as the guest host. They are stressed as could be. They've invested an incredible amount of money and time, and you're just there to catch a few fish, but they are not having fun. And I've also been in the position when you call a buddy, they're biting like crazy, get your ass over here, and he flies or drives half a day. And you're right. Usually a good fisherman knows that you should have been here yesterday, but you've put a lot of stress on yourself to, hey, I've been bragging about all these fish. We're going to go catch them every cast. So I've been living vicariously through you. All my friends, whenever I send them pictures of where I'm at and what I'm catching, they say, I guess I can just live vicariously through you. And there's not many people that I am envious of their lifestyle, Matt. But you are really having a ball between Ireland, California, Canada. Hang on, I wrote them down. You're going to Mexico again.
Japan,
a master
Japan
angler
in there.
trip. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, Mexico in a couple weeks. I was actually just talking with there's a couple more BTL listeners that signed up for it that I'm going to talk to this week, and I'm really looking forward to that. I was scrolling through some of the pictures from last December when I was down there, and it is a magical place. I tell them, I said, you forget what a largemouth bass is supposed to be like when you grind for a couple of bites, and then you go down there and it is just 100% commitment to eating something, whether it's a 2-pounder or a 10-pounder. You're like, dude, like this is why we fell in love with it, for those days when you know that the next bite is just going to rattle the rod, and it could be anywhere from 3 pounds up to 12.
Yeah, I've had the good fortune of getting on a couple bodies of water down here where I'm pretty sure we were the first bass boats to ever access it. And the fish just act so much differently.
They're different
They have
beasts.
no fear. They have no fear. I remember that. I won't go into those kinds of stories, but I will tell you, you are living a great life.
What stories were you not going to get into? I would love to hear some of the stories of just reckless abandoned bass fishing.
Yeah, the first time we ever went to Amistad and Falcon, I went on pre-scouting trips before those lakes had been tournament pressured or been on live. And the lake, Amistad was probably the most unbelievable because the water was so clear you could see everything. It was like an aquarium. And you'd hook a big fish, and when it'd swim around the cove, literally ones would come out of different bushes and start following him. And this is all stuff you don't see when we go to these pressured tournament lakes. But to have 5 to 6 pound largemouth chasing around another one while you're trying to land it in Texas, where you have no cell phone service and the scenery is unbelievable. You never forget things like that, just like you'll never forget that. You said that Master Angler Day is burned into your memories. We are rich with memories. You can't buy that. Like you said, you can't pay an entry fee to experience that. The first time I was ever on Falcon, the first day, I always let my buddy tell the story because I have a way of exaggerating sometimes. And he goes, Charlie, we probably caught 75 bass that first day, but 75% of them were over 5 pounds. And they absolutely were. We caught a double digit that day, 2 9s. It actually got dark and I was still flipping the bushes. And he said, Charlie, are we going to go in? And I said, if they're going to keep a biting, I'm going to keep a flipping, because they don't always bite like that.
Yeah, I remember that Amistad. So after the second time they'd been there, it had been after the one that Williamson won when he was throwing that big swim bait. That was kind of, it had been a West Coast thing, but that was kind of the first time at a major tournament that it had been brought. And, I was out there with Harold Allen. We were watching him throw that big, I think it was a big osprey over the trees. And there was a media event. This will tell you how long ago it was. There was a media event following that with True Tungsten.
Yeah.
It was like Peter T, Ike Anelli, like those type of guys.
I wasn't at the media event, but I was at the tournament.
But Byron Velvick was there, and he got out there with me afterwards. And Velvick, that was right in the kind of the process where he was getting the lodge down there set up. It's not down there anymore. But there's that off limits kind of like government area at Amistad, and I've always been told, like, you get caught in there, you go to jail. And Velvick, this is after the tournament. He's like, hey, I can go in there. He's like, don't film where we are, but I can go in there. So we went in there, And, those fish had never seen a bait in there because you can't have a boat in there. And there's these big trees underwater. And dude, he goes, "You want to see the craziest thing ever?" And I said, "Yeah." And he pulls out, big swim bait and he fires it over this tree. And you can just see the dark spot, the dark spot of the tree is probably 25 foot of water. And you can just look down and see it and you can't see anything. He gets it down there and he's slow reeling it. And boom, here come, we're looking at this visually. It's sunny. It's clear. Here comes like an 8 or 9 pounder following it. And then all of a sudden there's 3 or 4, 8 or 9 pounds. And then, dude, there's 25 bass over 8 pounds that are just like lemmings following the swim bait all the way back to the boat. It was the craziest thing that I have ever seen in my life. Just the density of 8 to double-digit bass that were in that place for a number of years. It was wild.
We've really reached a new era when you have to say you could actually see them, with your eyes. Because now you have to explain that because you're not just seeing them with electronics. But
yeah,
that's amazing. And not to mention the fish out of Amistad for those couple of years were like Rembrandts. They were absolutely flawless. The pictures of the fish I have from down there look like fiberglass replicas. There wasn't a mark on them. They glowed. They were golden. They were big, fat, healthy, the healthiest I've ever seen fish. It was amazing. We got into a body of water here once that had only been accessed by airboats for years because a hurricane knocked a dike down and we could get our bass boat over it and literally caught over 40 fish, like you mentioned the other day in a podcast, without lifting the power poles, in 40 casts, our first 40 casts of the morning. I had to look at the guy with me and say, "Hey, stop casting for a minute. I want a sip of coffee," because we were both scared to quit casting because we knew the other guy would hook up again. So I actually had to say, "Stop the madness for a second."
That's wild. I wonder if I can get any of this stuff. So I found. So remember Remitz won the first one. He was like the next big thing when he came out with the Sidebirds. I don't know what this is. This is a little video that I found on.
What good memories.
Bassmaster about it.
Tracy and I spent a whole winter there. About I think before the second time we went. It was the only winter she let me take her there though, because it got cold. It's not like Florida. It got cold.
I'm looking at this video right now. Oh, this was wild. Battle on the Border, episode 11. Let me see if I can pull this up. This could be a total bust, Charlie, but
no risk, no reward.
Yeah, entire screen. There's the entire screen. Let's share audio. Share. There it is. Got it. All right. Let's see if we can hear this. Where's the play?
Shoot for the win. Thanks, guys.
Can you hear it?
The border.
Oh, yeah.
This was the first year.
Ish. There he is.
That's such a cool place.
Yeah.
Man, this is what it's all about. We're down to the final 12, last day of weigh-in. We got a whole crowd of people. This is actually
that's a skinny big show.
3,000, 4,000 people out front waiting to see these guys weigh in, getting ready to kick this thing off.
Today I had a little bit of patience, and that's one thing I think as a fisherman you need to have patience. But I got the two biggest
Look at
fish I caught
fish.
all. Our tournaments are all practice, catch and release.
Anyway, there's just a little bit of that.
Yeah, good memories. Good memories.
But yeah, no, that's how Mexico is. It's just the same fish that they've never seen a bait. There's competition. They're big, and they know if they don't get it first, that their 6-pound buddy next to him is going to get it. You just don't get that very often. Like you don't get that in Ohio, and even in Florida. Yeah, you catch big ones, but like they're not unpressured fish.
Couldn't agree more. And yeah, it does. That's a lot of times. That's why I fish farm ponds, because sometimes you stumble on a farm pond where they're that stupid. That's probably one of the greatest untapped fisheries we have in this nation. For years, our state records came out of ponds. That's where our big bass grew in Ohio. I had some notes here. You mentioned we just saw Terry Scroggins yesterday on Headwaters. He was in his element. big show, was in his element with a flipping stick, and Britt Myers just sat there and let him do his thing, man. And on top of it, it's his birthday. You talk about being a happy boy. Terry Scroggins never taken the big weight out of his hand. On his birthday, he catches big bass. They win the day. Unbelievable. And of course, today we have such a rare thing. We have Bobby Lane and Chris Lane in the same boat. We have John Murray and Skeet Reese
Legends.
in the same boat.
How many boats between them out west, Charlie? Like at least 40 boats won between, I think, what is John Murray at 37 or 38?
And who knows if they ever really fish together instead of just compete together. You know, they travel together, but I'll bet they haven't been in a boat together more than a handful of times.
I'm telling you, there hasn't been a best-selling. So I remember, you know, I've got the Bass Boss book right here with Ray Scott, Big Bass, Big Dreams. There was that book that came out where that dude who used to work for Bass wrote it about the classic and how all that. There's a number of books. The best-selling book, and this will never happen, would be to get Skeet Reese, John Murray, and Byron Velvick together to write a book about making it on the national tour in whatever, the 80s, the 90s, when they were all coming up at the same time, when John Murray was the father of the West Coast and Skeet Reese won it, and Velvick was the swim bait master. And some of those stories over that decade of when they became household names, really legends in the sport, all three of them.
Man, I was fishing during all that, and actually got to meet them when they first came east, you know, and we'd heard all the stories also. And Byron was bigger than life, you know, with all the stories we'd heard about models and everything, and limousines and showing up at tournaments with, well, you know what I'm saying.
I hear you.
We were flabbergasted by him. You know, in the old days, it was like when Iaconelli first showed up. There was a mold that a Bass Pro was supposed to be: clean cut, nice guy with a tournament shirt on, good wife at home, good Christian guy. And when these new guys started showing up that were a little rough around the edges, it was shocking. I mean, it was a whole new. It took a while for them to be accepted at Bassmasters. We were a very conservative group for years, and it's so neat to see all the types we have now, all the long hairs, all the really cool young kids now. Man, I don't even want to get into it, but you talked about a feel-good story. It's gone full circle. I literally am getting beat by kids that went through my fishing school clubs in my Wednesday night tournaments now, and my Tuesday night tournaments at home. The kids that were in my club that hung on every word I could tell them are now kicking my ass with forward-facing sonar, and it is so exciting to watch them. You know, it's one of the reasons I'm fishing the opens again. I'm not as competitive as I used to be, but these kids are so respectful to me. Everyone says so many nice things to me. There's nowhere I'd rather go than another tournament. Even if I don't win, I've had the greatest experience of my life. I still love every minute of it. And yes, I entered all 8 opens again and can't wait. I literally had a ball in the last couple. Getting to compete with old friends like Randall Tharp and Ish Monroe. I get to see a lot of my old friends from the elites come fish with me for a couple of years. Sometimes they're stuck in the purgatory with me for several years. Sometimes they just pass through in 1 year, like Mr. Cody Meyer did. What a class act. Look how easy he made that look.
I mean, did you expect anything else?
No, but it is amazing that people think there's luck in fishing. That's just pure talent when a guy shows up to qualify for the elites and does it in 1 year. You know, look how many did it that are that good, didn't even trip up on their way of requalifying. It was 1 year and they're up in the elites. It just shows there are pro fishermen that are really, really talented. And then there are pro fishermen that work their asses off, love it more than anything, and they do okay. But there are fishermen that are just better at it, you know, as well as I do. We've watched it for years and years. But this MLF on Headwaters right now is really cool to me because I'm in such close proximity that while I'm fishing, I can listen to it. And our fish are doing similar things here. The Kissimmee chain looks absolutely beautiful. I've only been here a couple of days, but I've sampled about 4 lakes already. The hurricanes opened up a lot of water. got rid of a lot of hydrilla. I know people don't like hydrilla to die, and I agree up north, but down here, if they didn't spray for hydrilla, we wouldn't have any lakes. So you can complain about the spraying. Mother Nature has a way of controlling it eventually, but the fishing right here, right now is fantastic. We've got a big front moving in tomorrow, and the fish know that. Their first cold front of the year. We had that big full moon over the weekend, and the fish are just biting. I mean, I literally am just fishing a prop bait, not because it's the best way to catch them, because it's the funnest way to catch them, and they're eating it. I caught over 40 in 2 hours last night in a little afternoon, evening trip on my torpedo, and lost a giant. Both days I've been here, I've lost a giant already, and that's what I love about fishing down here. Nearly every day you either catch a giant or you have a hold of one where you're like, I'd like to have seen that one.
Yeah. Dude, we got to go back to this local Ohio stuff. So Josh Butler emailed me. We talked about this on the show a little bit, where
you brought it up when you had Mark on. You just mentioned what we had done. Yeah.
Okay. Explain a little bit what happened, because he sent me something that just ran a couple weeks ago that is the coolest damn story ever. You want to talk about a feel-good story in the sport. And like, I'm not going to lie, I feel like I have a small part of it, because
big part.
Not a big part. I did was connect you to like Josh listens. I'm sure he's listening today to BTL. He's a 15-year-old in Ohio. You're one of his favorite guys he knew in Ohio. He sends me this urgent message. Dude, I got to talk to Charlie. Like, I have to talk to Charlie. So I sent it to you, and I think we've talked about this before on the show a little bit, but you guys ended up hooking up and fishing some of the old Tuesday night turkey shoots together.
Yep. Great kid. I found out he's homeschooled, so he doesn't have a lot of friends his age. There's a guy in his neighborhood, lives across the street, that fishes our evening tournaments, and he's been showing up to some of them. And I've helped him out a couple of times. One time they had a dead battery, and I gave him a jump box so they could fish that night, and always give that kid attention. He's one of those kids that you just can't pass up. He's smiling, he's excited, he's passionate, but I'd never really met him or knew his name. And when you sent me that email, I was a little worried, but, I couldn't say no. And the kid got on the phone with me. He talks like he's a 40-year-old man, even though he's 14 when we first started fishing. I think you still there?
Yeah, I messed up your audio. I was trying to make it better, and then I made it worse. You should be back now.
It was me. Anyway, I took him to that first Tuesday night tournament. He'd never been in a boat like mine. And the kid's so respectful. He acts like he's 40 years old. He's so mature for 14. When we ran down the lake, we got to our first spot. And you and I forget what that boat ride's like. We take a fast boat ride every day.
Yeah.
But to a kid never gone at a blast off fast in a boat, we forget. That's a memory you never forget, running down the lake, at 70 miles an hour with other boats. And that first night I told you, we were discussing there's muskie in that lake. And he goes, I've never seen a muskie. And it couldn't have been 2 casts later. I catch a big old muskie, and he's so excited. We took pictures and everything. And then he called me to fish because his partner couldn't go. His partner had to work or his boat was broke. And Josh and I fished together a couple times, and then I started feeling guilty. Like, Josh, when Jim gets his boat fixed, you need to go back.
You can't be stealing Jim's partner, Charlie.
That's what I felt like. I said, he goes, oh, no. Jim's boat's still broken. I checked with Jim. Jim's actually, he goes, no. He says, Jim's actually the one who suggested I call you. So I felt better about that. And so anyway, a couple of weeks later, we caught 2 huge smallmouth. I sent you the pictures. One of them, when he's holding it, looks like it's a 7-pounder. It's a 5-pounder. But when I hooked that fish, it'd been a rough night. We weren't doing that great. And I caught a nice smallmouth. And then when I hooked that big one, I said, Josh, get the net. Well, that kid's only netted a dozen fish in his life, and this is a big smallmouth, and I'm trying to keep his calm. And it goes by the net the first time, and I look at Josh, and he goes, I messed that up, didn't I? I go, don't worry, Josh, we're going to get her. Don't worry, Josh, we're going to get her. We're going to get her. And I could see him shaking. He was shaking like a leaf on a tree. And I finally got that smallmouth back out from under the boat, and he scooped it up. And I thought that kid was going to, he screamed like Mike Eichen now. And long story short, we went to the weigh, and I always let him weigh the fish and carry him up. And everyone's patting him on the back and congratulating me for taking that kid out there. And I'm like, man, don't congratulate me. This is like, I'm old enough and mature enough now. This is the greatest feeling in the world to put this kid on.
I might.
You're right.
I don't know about the mature enough, Charlie.
All right, maybe not. But long story short, they ended up doing a story in the Ohio Outdoor News on the Tuesday night circuit, because it's literally the oldest circuit in Central Ohio forever. And of course, they interviewed me, and they put the picture in there with Josh and I.
Look at that right there.
Matt, do you remember when you were in your first magazine or your first article? It's the biggest thing in your life as a kid. You frame it, you show it to all your friends.
I still have it framed right here. Here, I'll show you. I'll go get it. Just keep talking. 1 second. I'll go get it.
The first time I was ever in a magazine was the Ohio Fisherman magazine. My mom knew the editor, so I kind of had a shoe in to get my picture in the magazine. But 40 years later, someone brought me that magazine to a sports show. Said, "Mr. Hartley, look what I bought at a garage sale. I found some old magazines, and you're in this one." So I have a sealed copy of that. But when you're a kid, that's the greatest accomplishment of your life, to get in an article like that. And Josh was 14. He's 15 now. And an old guy took me to my first Tuesday night tournament when I was 14 years old. So, I mean, I got tears in my eyes talking about it, Matt. How unbelievably incredible is life and bass fishing. I really believe as I get older, we don't write the script. You're meant to meet people. You're meant to cross paths with people. Things are meant to happen as long as you keep walking forward and taking advantage of opportunities. You're living proof. And we literally have so much fun at those. I fished the first one of those when I was 14. I had my own little stump jumper, but I couldn't drive yet. And my mom found a guy that she actually counseled. My mom was a drug and alcohol counselor, and she found one of her patients that loved fishing. And he drove his truck and my boat to the first Tuesday night tournament. When we fished it, I was 14 years old. And of course, I found it through someone had put an index card up at a Woolco store, which is our only tackle store in Central Ohio. Matt, we didn't have internets. We didn't have people that mailed out tournament schedules to us. You had to luck upon a bass tournament. I didn't even know what a bass tournament was when I went to my first Tuesday night tournament. So things have changed so much. It's absolutely incredible. And it transcends generations. It truly does. Old guys took me fishing. Every time someone says, "Thank you for taking my kid fishing," I say, "An old fart took me fishing." And I've got to be boat captain several more times for the Hartley Hogs this year because I'm not out on tour as much.
Yep.
And it's incredible. It's gratifying, is humbling. It's incredible to do that, to turn a kid on to his first fish or his first big one in a tournament. Thank you for bringing that up. That was part of my notes. We're going to go to one more emotional thing. There's your article. Show it off, Matt. Show it off.
That's that I won this. That's in the Herald interview there. That's me with a very young Kevin Van Dam. The date on that is March 25th, 1998.
Yeah.
At the time, he's pictured with Kevin Van Dam, 2-time Bass Angler of the Year. That is sponsored by the Assumption Bass Club, and he won $100 in fishing tackle and a trip to the regionals in April.
Yep. Yeah, I looked up some FLW or MLF stuff before we got on the show because I wanted to see how many FLW tournaments I'd fished as well as bass. And of course, when you hit your angler profile, it shows old stories, and I scanned down, and there's stories down there from my first FLW at Okeechobee when we're so young, and the pictures it's unbelievable how much we've experienced in the last 30 to 40 years in this industry. I mean, we went from, little motors and tillers to space rockets and electronics and internet and everything in between. It's been incredible. I wanted to bring up another thing. Mr. Steve Clapper, the god of Lake Erie, freshwater Hall of Famer, won, I think, more BFLs or Redmans than any man alive, and won the FLW Open on Lake Erie, $250,000. Cherry picked it away from all those pros. He announced at the last Lake Erie tournament this year that that's going to be his last tournament. And I had the good fortune of fishing the third to his last tournament with him on Lake Erie. And we caught big bass of the tournament. And Steve is not, doesn't move nearly as well as he wish he could. And we had the greatest day I've ever had fishing. God shined on us because a couple days before the tournament, we were supposed to get really bad weather. And they announced that we were going to be restricted to West Harbor, couldn't go out in the Great Lakes, and with Mr. Clapper, man, you want to go out to the Great Lakes, you want to go out to the lake. He's going to put us on them. But Steve said, Charlie, your boat's a lot more suited for the harbor. You bring your boat. So I got to bring my boat up, and we practiced one day, spent the night at his beautiful place on Lake Erie. He's got a boat dominium up there that he built in his retirement that's awesome. And got to spend the night there with him and Jerry. Thank you. There he is. And we were restricted to the harbor, so we had to fish largemouth. You were allowed to catch smallmouth, but you don't catch many in the harbor. Mm-hmm. And, my forte is largemouth trash fishing, and his forte is smallmouth fishing. But it was fun to be in my boat running the trolling motor with Mr. Clapper. And right at the end of the day, it was a rough day. We struggled up a limit. And right at the end of the day, I caught big bass. We caught big bass of the tournament. And away big bass of the tournament with one of your heroes in one of the last tournaments he's ever going to fish on Lake Erie was absolutely one of the highlights of my life. Bucket list day. I fished a couple tournaments with Mr. Clapper. Matter of fact, when he came down here and stayed with me, we fished a tournament on Florida waters and got paid. I only think I've fished 2 or 3 tournaments with Mr. Clapper, and we always finish in the top 5. And he is just one of the most purest fishermen you've ever met. The guy's so fishy. If you get him anywhere near a fish, he had fish in our live well when we weighed that limit the last day. You get that guy anywhere near a fish, or when that guy says, I think we ought to go over here, you just go. You don't even question it. You know how with some partners, you're like, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. When Steve Clapper says, we need to go over here, we need to go over there, you just blindly go. Mm-hmm. And it was a unbelievable day. And he had to fish with me because he needed to fish one more of their tournaments to make the championship. So I didn't know I was kind of the secondary partner for him to get him into the championship, but I would have done it I would have paid money to have done it. We had an absolute blast. I mean, it was an emotional day fishing with your hero and having him net fish for you and netting fish for him and high-fiving. I'll never forget, he was retying when I hooked that big one. I said, Steve, net, and he went into tournament mode and he netted that fish like a 20-year-old young man. And he looked at me and I'm shaking and I put it in the live well and he goes, Charlie, that was a real good one, wasn't it? That's a real good one. I go, yes, Steve, that was a real good one. That's a real good one. We were excited like 2 kids.
Dude, look at this. I think we've talked about this before, but it's worth bringing up again. Look at this. These are all top 10s starting in 1995. And you're talking all the way up. You want a tour out there on that, but 40 top 10s. Sandusky, Detroit River, Sandusky. Like, it's all Sandusky at the Detroit River. But this is from 95. I mean, look at this. This is there's one on Champlain. We can take that out. But I mean,
that's domination.
Like in 2005, 4th, 1st, 4th,
Legend.
3rd,
legendary,
3rd,
legendary,
1st, 6th, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 3rd,
legendary,
3rd,
legendary.
Like,
yeah. I got to travel with him one year on the Northern Everest Stars. We traveled together, mostly slept in our trucks. He called it your nest. Crawl back there in your nest and go to sleep, Charlie. And we've got to give seminars together. no joke, me and him in a boat in front of about 300 people telling fish stories. And the biggest compliment he gives me every time I see him, he goes, I always tell everyone, Charlie's the only guy I know who falls asleep with a smile on his face.
That's very nice. So on his FLW profile, he has probably 50, 60, he's probably got 70 pictures up here. This right here is the only one of a largemouth.
That's right. And I'll bet that's Lake Champlain. No joke. That's Lake Champlain. He was so excited. He got on him in Cary Bay with a big 3/4 ounce jig, flipping it in the grass. And he thinks that's so much fun because all he ever does is smallmouth fish. Whenever we get in a boat together, he's like, can we go largemouth fishing, Charlie? All he ever does is go out in that lake. So he really loves largemouth fishing. So I'm sure that was Lake Champlain.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, things are happening over on the headwaters.
Oh, you're watching
in Indian River. Well, no, I'm just looking at the standings because as of November 19th at 9:07 a.m. Central Time, Chris and Bobby are putting it together. They're leading it. Team Starbright is leading it. We're talking about the MLF, the Bass Pro Tour General Tire Team Series. They did 4 of these events in the fall. They had a draft earlier in the year for it. I've done shows on it. We've had Ott and Andy on the champions of that on. I mentioned it with Edwin yesterday on the show, but it is all streamed live on the MLF app. This is the first year that they've done it where they put 2 guys in the same boat. They've had this team series where they did earpieces and all this stuff, and then it was okay. It was okay. This is cool stuff. I haven't watched all of it. I've missed a couple of them, but I think there's a future here. All the anglers absolutely love it. But yeah, Chris and Bobby in the boat for the same time today. They're actually fishing live. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then let's get into the opens. You mentioned you sign up for all that. A lot of different stuff going on this year. And that actually, I'm in, Charlie. I was confirmed today. Just Division 2, though, that starts at Sam Rayburn. What is it? Sam Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, Norfolk. There you go. Norfolk, and then Leech Lake up in August. So you'll get a chance to fish on Leech there.
We'll discuss it.
It's BTL on a Tuesday with the one and only Charlie Hartley. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly, gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really, really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top unarmed, Strike King. Gear that just plain works.
Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday with the one and only Charlie Hartley. Charlie, I was thinking during the break. So you mentioned I did this thing. Matt Steffen was on the water with him. You're talking about spending time on the water with Josh. Talking about spending time on the water with Mr. Clapper. We have some off time. Like there's a couple weeks like in between tournaments, like in the winter and spring. Dude, I've got some stuff that I'm planning for BTL next year. It might include some live on the water. I want to get on the water live with you on BTL and let the BTL listeners be able to interact with us while we get on and rip some lips. I don't care what species it is. I just want big fish, every cast blowing them over the side of the boat, laughing, having a great time. I think that would, I've done it on Grand with you. What were you practicing for a tournament where you came and said, hey, do you want to jump in during pre-practice? And I had a blast. Remember, we were catching them. We didn't catch any big ones. We were catching white bass and largemouth that were schooling on the trap. Had a great time in the boat with you. I think I've got a signed dollar up there from that trip. It said, you beat my ass at Grand, signed Charlie Hartley. That was a great day. Let's do that again, except bring the BTL listeners on with us.
I would love that. That's when they can really see my positive mental attitude. People are amazed how I act when I catch a fish. I'm not Ike and Ellie, but I freak out every time I hook one. I mean, I've caught a million of them, and I freak out a little bit every time I catch one. It just still yanks my chain. I mean, I got to fish with one of my best friends, Jeremy Reese, at Jeremy Reese Fishing on Instagram, one of the greatest young men. He took over the Bass Federation youth program. He's an unselfish, great tournament fisherman. Anyway, I got to spend a day with him on a local reservoir right before I left, and they were biting. We caught them and caught them and caught them. And the more we caught them and the more we told stories, the more we giggled like little girls. I mean, that's what it's all about. I love tournament fishing. I love the pressure. I love the challenge. I love the competition. But the joy you have in the boat with another fisherman, fun fishing, or even a buddy tournament, there's nothing like it. I fish alone all the time, and I really enjoy it. But when you've got someone in the boat you get along with and you both have a passion, it just multiples of two of joy. When you catch a big one by yourself, it's pretty cool. You catch a big one with your buddy, it's really cool. I don't know why that is, but it is.
The Opens next year, just a quick recap of how it goes down. So they still have the EQs in the overall. They split it into two divisions. There's 4 tournaments in each division. You can fish Division 1, or you can fish Division 2, or you can fish both divisions. You get points based on where you finish for each tournament in your division from 200 on down. Your goal is to finish in the top 50 of either Division 1 or Division 2. That gives you an invite to the EQs. There'll be one tournament in September, one tournament in October, one tournament in November. It's a $3,500 entry fee. There are no points. All the points are zeroed. As long as you're in the top 50, you're in it. Then those 100 EQ anglers plus the 10 Elite Series anglers that were relegated to the EQs then fish for 10 spots for the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series. How's that sound, Charlie?
Sounded great. I really enjoyed your rant at the end of one of your shows about the elite guys being able to step into the last 3.
Not the elite guys that are in good standing with Bass, the top 90. Now, listen, I'm not bashing Bass.
No, I agree with you.
I respect Bass. There is not a single thing they could do where they don't get smoked on. I do not want it to come across like I am bitching or complaining.
Hey, they let you back in. They let you back in.
They did let me back in. I was a little nervous of that. I try to be very fair when it comes with that. I just wasn't a huge fan of allowing, the guys who are already in the classic who I'm not.
Don't you get going again. I'll bring
up
those
$3,500.
I'll bring up those trolling motor brakes. I'll get you going. I'll bring those brakes up.
Listen, at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet, I shook Chase Anderson's hand and I said, listen, I still respect the hell out of it. I disagree with it, but I know you can't make everybody happy on it. And that's it. and I try to be as fair with the platform as I can while still expressing, but it's not, I try to make it not my opinion. I try to have it based on like fact or based on saying, here's why. And I get it. They have to make,
Matt. That's
you had the Elite Series guys bitching that they wanted more opportunity. You had the EQ guys bitching that they weren't getting enough of that and they wanted their own. So they said, okay, well, we'll give you guys 3 other options. And in the process of making the Elite Series guys happy, they tick off the Open EQ guys. And then if they make the Open EQ guys happy, now the Elite Series guys are saying they don't have enough. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know how the industry is right now in that day and age. They could come out and
double
and say,
the payouts, and
yeah,
someone would
that they're
bitch
doing
about
$1 million for first, and someone would be like, well, why not 2? So anyway, I like the format. That's the format.
To get you going.
That wasn't going. That wasn't going.
I'm teasing you totally, Matt.
So you're in all 8 again, Charlie. You're fishing all 8.
I got to. I would. It would kill me to watch one of those live on Saturday and not have been there. I'm not thrilled about the schedule. I don't care about the dates, but the bodies of water are not that attractive, Matt. I've been to most of these, and these are not wonderful. There's only 2 tournaments I'm really looking forward to as far as the venues, and that's St. Lawrence and Leech. You know, the rest are tough, grinder.
Wait a second. You're not looking for – okay, let's run through it real quick, and then because I think this is a Charlie Hartley schedule.
Yeah, it may, but it's not going to be a catching a lot of fish schedule.
Clark's Hill in January, Rayburn in February, Kentucky Lake early March, Norfolk Lake early April, Tom Bigby mid-April, Upper Chesapeake in July, St. Lawrence the end of July, and Leech Lake in August. So I was looking at this, and you're not excited about many of these. Well, not excited. That's what I'm saying.
They're not venues I would go to pleasure fish. I mean,
what about Tom Bigby in Columbus, Mississippi?
Where do you see what a fishery that is? Been there, fish tougher than nails.
But is that not Charlie Hartley, Werman, shallow water? Like, haven't you won tournaments and made classics on the James River?
Flip 100 cypress trees and get 3 bites. And yes, that suits my skills, but not my pleasure.
Upper Chesapeake Bay, doesn't that suit your pleasure?
Yeah,
suit your skills the end of July?
I think you've been there. That's a pretty tricky fishery.
But that's your style?
Yeah. Like I've done great on tidal water.
It'll be very interesting to see Division 2, in my opinion. That's the minnow shaking division. Starting on, Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, Norfolk, and Leech. I think you could go 4 for 4. You could tie a couple specific baits on and make that work. They're all bigger weight tournaments on Division 2, in my opinion. I think we're going to really surprise people at what Kentucky puts out. I think it'll be a 90% smallmouth deal, a lot of 18 to 22 pound bags of smallmouth. Rayburn that time of year. If it sets up right, if the water's right, freak show.
Great.
Freak show. And you're going to have guys that are trapping the grass. You're going to have guys that are in the drains. You might have some guys that are catching early spawners, pre-spawn fish, timber fish, brush pile fish, minnow. Like, everything is in play right then at Rayburn. A lot of 20-pound bags. Norfolk, that's going to be a grinder. I would have really liked to have gone back to Ouachita. I thought Ouachita was an ideal Bassmaster Open venue. It was won by a dude who didn't even know what an electronic was, who was a local with a trap. There were guys out in the middle. There were guys that ran up and cranked. There were guys that were jerkbait, and there were guys that were grass fishing. It spread out. I got on the lake the first day, Charlie, and I went, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. And then I never saw anybody for the next 4 days or the tournament.
Yep, we crossed paths a couple times at Ouachita. That was the first place I'd ever weighed a whole limit my first day pinging a minnow. First time ever.
Oh, that's how you caught him there.
I did the first day.
Charlie.
The second day, pinging the minnow, they would look at it and not eat it, and I didn't have enough experience how to get them to bite. It was so frustrating the second day. I saw as many fish. But the first day, every one of them I threw a minnow at for the first 2 hours absolutely went at it. I mean, I could even miss them because I'd overreact seeing them on the electronics, and they'd bite it again and again. I think my first fish that first morning, I set the hook on 3 times before I got it. I couldn't
imagine you.
I hate it.
No, not that you hate it, but just the way you are as a person when you know you've got one that sees your minnow and is swimming up to it. Like, I would love to see you on point on the front of that Ranger knowing that one's about to eat at 60 feet out, and you tried to coax that freaking 3-pound spotted to eat hit her largemouth. Like, that has to be a thing of beauty.
It's tough. It is tough for me. My buddy Jeremy Reese on Lake Erie has taught me more in a week of fishing with him on Lake Erie than I could learn in a year on those electronics. He's really good at it. And when you get in the boat with someone that's really good at it, you learn like 10 times quicker than when you just try to do it on your own. It's amazing, but it's also a frustrating tool. Let's talk about going to Clark's Hill in January. You're very smart, but that's probably snowmobile suit. I'm not kidding you. Although we thought Ouachita was going to be a snowmobile suit too.
That's going to be that cold there, huh?
Yeah. Clark's Hill is not, it's not Southern Georgia. And, it's
Evans,
into
Georgia.
January. Heck, it could be really cold. That Tom Bigby, unless it's improved in the last 20 years, I fished. Listen to this. You want some history? I fished a Bassmaster Open there that was the first time Chris Bowes emceed a tournament. First time ever. Or no, it might not have been an Open. It may have been a tour. But it was the first time Chris Bowes emceed a tournament. I think Tripp or even the guy before Tripp was out ill or something, and Chris had to substitute, and everyone gave Chris a hard time because it was his first time and he was stumbling over his words and didn't do as much as those snotty pros. They didn't think he was as skilled at it, so they all teased him. And I was so happy to be there with Chris Bowes, first time he ever emceed a tournament. But Paul Elias won. He brought in a bag one day that weighed more than what anyone else had caught in 3 days. I'm almost sure that's a fact, Matt. I think one day he caught like 28 pounds, and prior to that, the big bag was probably 12 pounds. Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding you. Out in the middle of the lake on a big crankbait, way before forward-facing sonar. We were all up in the bayous flipping cypress trees and grass mats, and he went out in the middle of that river channel with a 20-plus crankbait and brought in a bag of fish that we'd never even thought existed out there. It may be before record keeping, Matt.
I'm trying to find it. I'm not seeing it. The earliest like Paul Elias shows up is obviously the 82 with the kneel and reel.
Yeah, this would have been before that.
Dude, I've said that before. Like, you want to talk about a dude who
I know accomplishments.
Just the stuff that he's done, the kneel and reel, the Falcon Lake deal, and the A-rig.
Just like this tournament I just talked about, he's done stuff like that.
There aren't many guys who have 3 iconic moments in their career that redefine the sport.
Yeah.
And dude, those are 40, 50, like 40 plus years ago, but everyone still talks about Falcon. Everyone still talks about that FLW Open in fall of 2010 or 2011 on Gunnersville, and everybody still talks about the kneel and reel.
Yep. As our sport grows, those old accomplishments get diluted with new accomplishments, and that's just how history works. But back in the day, there were a handful of guys that were known for something like that. I mean, and he was definitely recognizable. He had that. He had a personality and a body profile that you could recognize. You knew Paul Elias, across a room anywhere. And we always got along adamantly. Paul was always a really good dude, man. Always a really good dude. Still is a really good dude. Oh, and something else more exciting this year. Some of the contestants in the Opens are going to be wonderful. I understand Rick Clunn's going to fish the Opens. Rick Clunn's one of my favorite people in the world. I can't wait to see him at the first Open. Every Open I'm at that Rick Clunn's in, I go out of my way to find him before blast off. I tell my co-angler, we're going to go find a legend. And I snake through all those boats, no waking around, waiting for blast off. I know you did. And I find him every time, and he talks my ear off before a tournament. We have a ball. We told so many funny stories last time we ran into each other. I thought we were both going to pee our pants before blast off. And then the whole time I'm talking to him, he looks at me and he goes, do you know how many boats headed north and how many headed south? I go, no, I was talking to you. I wasn't paying any attention. He goes, 18 have already gone north, only 18. And I'm like, of course he's already calculating that.
That is fantastic. That's another dude. Fantastic. I mean, he's fishing for the love of the sport.
Yeah, he does. He loves it.
And you know what? I think over the last couple of years, like if you look at his tournaments, man, I think that he just literally ran out of juice. Like he's had a couple where I think I think you give Rick Clunn a little bit more energy and a little bit more stamina, and he is right there to win another Elite Series event. Like, you can tell just based on the weights, and he gets up on stage, and I'm like, dude, like, that dude is tired, but he keeps showing up and he keeps grinding. But you know how it is when you're fishing tired, it's a lot harder to power through a day.
Yeah, no, there's a peak in age in this sport, even though you can do it forever. You at some point you don't see better, you don't cast better, you don't have more energy. You know, at some point in your life you start slowing down a little bit. Your brain doesn't, and your brain doesn't believe it, but it shows in your performance. We've seen it with every legendary pro. But I will be honored to compete against Rick Clunn. I think I heard several MLF guys coming back to the Opens, not necessarily to qualify for the Elite. Some of them just want to step back and fish the Opens. And some of these guys I have years and years of memories with. I just can't wait to see them. It was so fun this year with some of the Elite guys, you know, telling stories from that first year of the Elites, or even when we first took that chance and went and fished the Elites. Just great history there. And I'm looking forward to the Opens. I'm not looking forward to the Lakes. But I ended up cashing at Eufaula on your lake. I wanted to talk about that. You had a great tournament at Leech. I did well at Eufaula, which
that was rough.
Me. And you're going to hate me because I did it fishing your way with a spinning rod and a drop shot. That's right.
That's how I caught him. I finished 46 there. You edged me out. Or no, I finished like 48th or something there. I missed the check by 2 ounces or 3 ounces. I had the fish on, and I did tried to swing a fish in that it was just awful. It was the only one. It cost me $3,500. But so what made you do that on a fishery that is noted as one of the best power fisheries and muddy water fisheries?
5 days of practice. Yeah, I know. That's what taught it to me, with 5 days of practice. I had one area that I'd caught a couple big ones in practice and power fishing. And when it came to the tournament time, I stayed there and just kept downsizing until I got the right bait in my hand. I did get really fortunate on the way in on the last day. I stopped at the Miracle Mile and boat flipped one about 3 3/4 on a 5XD with 5 minutes to go.
Oh, right outside the ramp.
Yeah. And it was even cooler. Jack York, is that his name? The guy that just missed the Elites this year?
Yeah, the dude who looks like the brawny paper towel man who's 23 years old.
Nice dude.
Yeah, had him on
guide right day. Next to me when I did that. And he goes, "Man, that was so awesome, Charlie." He goes, I go, "I needed that one." He goes, "You got a big bag?" I go, "I do now." And he goes, "Awesome." Well, then we head in, and I didn't even realize he'd made the top 10 cut. I'm driving home Saturday, and there he is on the top 10. So here's a guy who made the top 10 cheering on me, you know, when I catch one that's going to get me paid. I just thought that was so cool. I'd never met him before that. It was so cool this year getting to congratulate all 9 of the guys that qualified. Yep. There were so many cool stories this year. Steve Browning and his wife came to almost every tournament rooting Bo Browning on. It was so awesome to watch. It was so awesome to watch a couple people that just missed it. You know, it was a really tight race this year, and it was fun. You know, they weren't all 20-year-olds this year that made it, which was really neat. And Dakota Eber, what a really nice guy. It was a fun year, Matt. I was bummed out when you made the business decision to miss the last couple, just because I didn't get to see you and because of the experience. I just love going to those tournaments. Everyone I see says, "Hi, Charlie. Hi, Charlie." Everyone that runs down the lake, "Hey, Charlie." I love that.
And I think there's probably going to be a couple invitational guys that are of that younger caliber that maybe are not household names that you're not familiar with that are moving over. But the guys that are moving on, and you look at just that list, that Easton Fothergill, Cody Meyer, Tucker Smith, Paul Marks, Emil Wagner, Andrew Loberg, Dakota Eber, Bo Browning, Evan Kung. Like, these are guys that are ready to compete at this level. Like, I just called Justin Lucas. You know, they had that lithium battery tournament up at Hartwell. It was like a no entry fee. And I called him to give him a little grief, and he was rooming with Emil and Andrew. And like, dude, those guys now, Andrew, you know, he's fished the tour and all that, and they know it, but like, just to be around a caliber of guy like Justin Lucas for those guys already is invaluable. I mean, I know that, you know, they beat him most of the time, but in some case, but like these guys, they're so ready. And Loberg's like in his 30s already, but like an Emil Wagner, a Tucker Smith, an Easton Fothergill, a Bo Browning, like they're guys that are going to be around for 20 plus years.
I got to meet Emmanuel a couple of times and speak with him. He's a really cool dude. And the other one I really enjoyed this year was Laker Hal. Laker Hal and I got along really good. It was it's so cool because, you know, that kid used to run around under our table when I'd go out to eat with his parents at the restaurant. That's so cool. And now he's twice my size, and he's got a beautiful smile. He's a good looking young man. He's going to do great in our industry. It's so cool to watch this. I told all those guys when they bring their kids, I said, quit bringing your kids up here to fish against me. Damn it. You know, leave them at home. And then that last one at Lake Martin, what a homecoming. I got to see Trip Weldon. Trip walked right up to while I'm at the weigh-in tanks, put his arm around me, and I'm like, I haven't seen Trip since my last elite weigh-in, you know. And then there was Steve Kennedy standing there. He came to the weigh-in, and we hugged. And the last spot I stopped to fish at Martin before I came in, I swore I heard a lady's voice say, "That's Charlie Hartley." Well, about 5 minutes later, a lady and her daughter walked down to the shoreline, and sure enough, it's Julia Kennedy and her daughter.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm like, oh, and I almost talked to them so long I was almost late to weigh in. I was so happy to see them. Steve and Julia are like two of my favorite people in the world. They are just sincere, true, beautiful people. And Steve and I just love fishing. I love talking to Steve Kennedy about fishing. He gets so excited he can't even get the words out. It's awesome.
Where were they? Were they on Smith this year where he was finding those wolf packs of those big
we talked about that when I saw him. He hand painted a glide bait, and I go, that footage, Steve, was the best footage we saw on live all year. And he goes, did you see that? Like 8 of them came out at once trying to get it. I was like, yeah.
Everyone else is in trouble. Bobby and Chris are pulling away a little bit.
You know, Scroggins did that yesterday on his birthday, and Matt, we know this. Florida fishing, it's hard to beat a Florida fisherman in Florida. There's something about that, you know.
Dude, it's hard to catch a damn bass in Florida for me. Like, you don't understand coming from Oklahoma.
You know how you dominate. Look,
I know, but I've stayed. You and Tracy opened your home for me for that tournament. Remember, I was so excited. I caught my biggest bass in Florida on the last cast. Don't know how the hell I did it or why. Never been able to duplicate it. But if you are not from Florida, if you do not understand the grass, it is the same thing as a guy who has never fished outside of Florida coming to Grand Lake in the fall and going, what the hell do I fish here? And I did that in the Nation Championship. I told my co-angler, a guy idle pass from Florida, and I said, I bet he's wondering what the hell he's doing driving up here to Oklahoma to fish this thing. It's just so you don't understand the level of cluelessness if you've never gone down. And then there's the 200 boats on it, and especially when you're on like a fishery like that you live by, you've got like 8 options for different lakes. And now with forward facing sonar, there's a whole nother level due in. So like, do you try to do the forward facing sonar thing? Do you try to do the grass thing that you're not good at? You don't understand the seasons because everything's different in Florida because it's dead of winter when you're there at home. It's hard to freaking navigate. It takes forever to go place. Like you don't understand for someone like me from Illinois and Oklahoma.
I do understand.
What it's like.
I came here from Ohio. I do understand.
How long did it take you before you were confident and comfortable?
Long time, but my water was hard in Ohio, so it was an easy choice. I mean, I'd rather cast at grass and not catch anything than cut a hole in the ice. So it was a pleasure coming down here to a boy who had real winters. I didn't care if I caught a fish or not. I was getting a suntan. There were palm trees. I remember when I first started fishing tournaments down here in the winter, I've got pictures of me holding bass and trophies in front of Christmas trees because they'd have Christmas trees at the weigh-in. We never had a bass in front of a Christmas tree in the Midwest because it was frozen. So this is paradise to me. But watching Terry Scroggins set the hook with that big rod and that big weight yesterday was absolute joy. That you want to learn how to set the hook. He was even laughing at Britt, not laughing, but trying to teach Britt, you can't drop the rod. As soon as you drop the rod, they feel that weight and drop it. And he watched Brett do it, and he goes, he looked at Britt and he goes, you can't help yourself. You've been fishing a jig too long. He goes, you can't help yourself. When they bite it, you want to drop your rod. But as soon as you do, they feel that weight and they get rid of it. You got to come straight up with them as soon as you feel them. You got to keep it taut. And if you watch Terry, he looks like he's sitting there doing nothing. But when he sets the hook, he's like a mouse trap. Have you seen him? He goes off like a mouse trap, man. It's like he's got a hair trigger. And when he sets that hook, you hear that braid and that graphite go. It's unbelievable.
Come on. How did that go, Charlie? Yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys, since he came onto the Bass Pro Tour, he has 2 top 10s. But he's one of those middle of the pack guys. I'm looking at this last year, 27th and 43rd in 2023, 41st in 2022,
look back in his
47th.
History. He earned the name Big Show for a reason.
No,
buddy.
I know, but dude, for the last 3 or 4 years, I'll say it. There's a group of legendary, very talented anglers who kind of have gotten lost in the mix.
Forward-facing sonar.
Well, they've gotten lost in the mix on the BP. And Scroggins is one of those, and it's really good to see those dudes who are career professionals with that talent, with that level. I spent a lot of days in the boat doing covering Terry Scroggins and watching him, and it's good to see Big Show out there again. Like I said, there's 5 or 6 of those guys who then you see them, when they have that good tournament, and you're like, dang, where has he been the last 3 or 4 years?
Yep. That's the other neat thing about this team format is we haven't seen much forward-facing sonar. Not that I'm against it, but as far as enjoying to view it, watching those team tournaments is refreshing. And not only the camaraderie between the 2 guys, but they're just covering water. Without practice time, they have no choice but to put the trolling motor down and fish. And that's how we all fish. When we get to a body of water, we all put the boat in the water. We look at a map and we go out there and start fishing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily put our trolling motor down and start scanning. So it's pretty neat to watch. I mean, it was neat to see Drew Gill and
Marshall
Junior Robertson try to adapt. They started out trying to ping. They started out trying to ping a minnow in headwater.
Shocker. This might be the most manly, guy bio on Terry Scroggins on MLF. It says Terry enjoys hanging out with his buddies, grilling, golfing, saltwater fishing, and building his own rods.
That's right. He is a man's man. If you think about it, Terry is a man's man. He likes a cold pop and he likes a hot steak. That's Terry.
And here's the other thing. So when you're in a position like Terry, you're in the boat and you meet a lot of people. You run into this too, Charlie, where you remember them, you remember the face, you remember the conversation you had, but if someone said, I'll give you $1 billion to say what their first name is, you have no idea. Doesn't mean that they're not valuable, that you did enjoy the conversation. It's just, there's a lot of things coming at you at once. And especially if you're at a tournament, I run into this too. Big Show is the smartest man because he just calls everybody Hammer. It doesn't matter whether it's his daughter, his best friend, his teacher from high school. You just call everybody Hammer and you can never be wrong and you can never forget anybody's name. A lot of times I've wanted to be like, Terry, I'll give you $100 bill if you can say my name right now. And I guarantee you'd be like, I don't know, Hammer.
He has taught me several life hacks. Not only Hammer, I'll tell you, I got to go out to eat with him once and a bunch of the guys. And Terry is one of the smartest. I mean, I learned this from him. When the waitress comes, you order 2 beers and 2 appetizers. I go, Terry, who you ordering for? He goes, hey, Hammer, we don't know how long it's going to be till we see her again.
Yeah.
I go, I'm with Terry. Give me 2 Bud Lights.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's got it figured out with the Daves. He calls you Hammer. He calls me Hammer.
Yeah. He's even got a walk-in cooler at his house, dude. You talk about a man's man. He's got a walk-in cooler in his house.
Yeah.
Oh, and you were talking about aquariums with Edwin. Which would you rather have, 1,000-gallon aquarium or a walk-in cooler?
I don't know. That's the Edwin. I didn't realize how he's got it dialed in there. Like if you watch it, he's got a smallmouth pond.
I know.
He's trying to grow a 10-pounder. You look at the side stuff with the pecans and he's got that aquarium. Like you look at it and you're like, dude, he's pretty quiet about it. Like I've seen his tackle room and stuff, but Edwin worked his ass. Like I said, he's got the wins. He's worked his ass off, but he's got a pretty nice little setup over there in
of course,
Oklahoma.
you have to have the stupid comments I saw that, oh, bass fishing must be paying pretty well. Well, it's not just bass fishing, boys. That dude works his ass off. He's got a business. He's got sponsors. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. And yes, he should get to live very well. Daggone it, if I won a classic and a FLW championship and all his accolades, he should have 5 ponds and he should have a nice house. I mean, he's done very well. He's very smart, very smart. I hate when people get critical of someone being successful. That's just
like you, Charlie. You worked your ass off at Signcom. You've talked about how you started sweeping floors as a young guy with no clue, and now you did it. And hell yeah, you worked your ass off and put the tie on and went to work. And every time I was staying with you, you were up working at 4 o'clock in the morning on the computer. But guess what? After all that time and showing up every single day, it allowed you to fish Florida in the winter times, to fish the Tuesday nighters in Ohio in the summer times, to catch a bass couple thousand days in a row, and you're still showing up. So enjoy the hell out of it.
I couldn't agree more. God bless America. I mean, let's make bass fishing in America great again. I'm thinking 2025 is going to be a great year after all these stupid years of everyone pissing and moaning about bass fishing. Let's just go out there and have fun and get along like we used to. I'm really sick of people resenting people, whether they ping a minnow or because they've been successful or because they're not just like you. Daggone it, that's what makes America so cool. We're all super different, and we all have value. Everyone has value. America is still the greatest place in the world. Everyone complains about America. Everyone complains about tournament fishing. Everyone complains, and I just don't get it. I'm living a better life than I ever could have imagined. And if you're unhappy, it's your own fault. I'm sorry. I don't mean that bad. Some people have some terrible problems in their life. I've had problems, challenges. We all have. But it's all about the attitude. Kevin Van Dam says it every day. It's all about the attitude. You can look at a problem as this is the end of the world, or this is just a chance to move forward and take it on head on. I know life's easier for some people, but don't resent them for that. This is the greatest sport and the greatest country in the world. And I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm living proof.
Dude, I think we end it there.
What do they always say? Or how's Zona always say it? Or that's the last one, or what's he always say? That's all, or something. I forget what the
I thought, wasn't there a dude on the news who said, and that's the rest of the story? Who was that?
That was Paul Harvey, I think.
Paul Harvey.
Or Walter Cronkite. One of those.
One of those two. All right, Charlie.
Matt, by the way, you're killing it, dude. You're absolutely killing it. Everyone loves Bass Talk Live. Every time I'm on Bass Talk Live, one other thing. We will go one other thing.
Okay.
All the rule changes and the entry fees and everything else. I'm thinking Major League Fishing is going to be awful interesting having periods with and without, because there'll be absolute contrast and comparison on the same body of the water during the same day. That's going to be eye-opening that, hey, there were more fish caught this period without it than with, or hey, there were twice as many fish caught this period with forward facing than the guys who didn't use it. We're going to see a real comparison and contrast to the catch ratios with or without the forward facing sonar. It'll be the first scientific study we've had side by side.
Right now, and he's kind of ahead of this. So Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment, he doesn't fish tournaments, but he is doing videos where he's same body of water, same areas with forward facing, without. He's doing the data that he's catching. Now I know obviously the more you do it, the more accurate it'll be, because 1 and 1, but it's very cool to watch some of his videos and see his catch rate per hour, his size of fish per hour, and all that. So there'll be a lot more stats that we'll get to compare it. And I think some of these young guys who haven't gotten the credit, who haven't understood it, I think we're going to see that, hey, they're on the water 300 days a year, and just because they may be 23 doesn't mean they don't have the same amount of experience as a 40-year-old who fishes a weekend a month, and they're just have done it in a fast track, and they can catch the damn things whether they're looking at them or not.
I don't think we're going to see any difference in the elites. Their rule changes will not change a thing.
Nope.
And NPFL going non.
Dude, I'm happy.
Facing.
I'm very happy with what all the organizations have done.
Tournament circuits now, which is cool because we used to have 3 tournament circuits were the same. You know,
yep.
It's going to be an interesting year.
And I enjoy, like, I love hearing that you're catching them, pinging a minnow. And I love talking to Frank Scalish where he's like, dude, whoa, you won't. Like, I mean, I love that. Like, that's new. And I don't look at it as like, oh, they're learning a bad thing. I look at it as they're learning a new technique. Just like if it was the same thing when the glides got big. I promise you, there were guys that had never thrown a big swim bait, and all of a sudden they had one come out of a freaking tree, and they're watching it follow this thing as they reel it. And, you know, they're Carolina rig and worm draggers and jig fishermen, and one lights it up 6 feet from the boat, and they call their buddies and go, dude, I bought this freaking glide bait that the guys are using, and I watched it. He ate it 5 feet from the boat, and I'm freaking obsessed with it. Like, it's that same thing to see guys of all generations, of all ages, like, do something that they didn't know existed, because you don't know what you don't know. And then when your eyes are opened and you go, oh my God, and you have the limitless person, that's what gets you back out there to say, I wonder if this will work and that'll work and this will work. That's what keeps us buying new tackle. That's what keeps us going to new lakes. That's what keeps us trying new stuff.
Sport in the world. That's what makes it the greatest sport in the world. You never quit learning. Between different venues, saltwater, freshwater, different species of fish.
Yep.
Different electronics, different baits. Yeah, it's perfect for a guy like me that has ADT and just can't.
ADT?
ADD.
I thought you said ADT. Like the,
ADT
like the
is a security system. I might have ADT. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it is the greatest sport in the world. It's only boring if you're doing it wrong.
All right, Charlie, you have a good morning. Where are you headed to fish today?
Cyprus. And
nice.
Man, yeah, it looks good, man. Water's flowing, and I saw gators, eagles, turkeys, and big bass yesterday.
Well, go do the same thing today.
Can't wait till we go fishing together. I love that idea.
All right, see you, Charlie.
Bye, buddy.
All right, that is the one and only Charlie Hartley. Take a final break of the show, and we come back, wrap things up, look ahead to the rest of the week. It's BTL on Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, and we'll be back right after this.
Omnia Pro gives you the confidence to eliminate dead water on thousands of lakes across the U.S. Exclusively through Omnia, utilize our map layers containing critical real-time satellite information to see water temperature, water clarity, and important weather data all in one place, along with 1-foot contours for navionics and detailed CMAP social mapping. Matched with Omnia's industry-leading loyalty credit program on all your tackle and gear needs, this is the only app you need in your arsenal for success on the water.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Brake Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm going to talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
All right, wrapping things up here on a BTL on a Tuesday. Want to throw a couple different things if you haven't had enough BTL and me. Number of different things out there right now. Obviously, you can go watch the rest of the In Fisherman Master Angler series that myself and Matt Steffen did. That thing is a wrap there. You can watch it in, you can listen to the BTL and then watch the corresponding day over on Matt Steffen's YouTube channel for all 4 days of our challenge. Also, just dropped on the Let's Fish TV. You can find it on your TV too, because it runs on like a bunch of different channels across the country, but you can also watch it on YouTube. Austin Cranford and I did a fall show that aired last weekend on Let's Fish TV, so you can watch that. We do some small lakes in Oklahoma, and I'm proud of it. Like I was talking to Charlie about how hard it is, like when you feel pressure to accomplish something. This was that case there, but the whole show is there. We grinded it out. It's actually powerful. Look, there I am. I'm throwing a bait caster in this show, but all sorts of stuff there where we go through. So if you're looking for some more viewing material, you can go watch that show. Also, tonight I will be on the Idle Zone Syndicate podcast. John Stewart, former director of the Bass Nation, talk about him now. I saw him at Grand recently. He now runs a lodge on Grand Lake, which I'm sure we'll talk about. That he'll be on the Kansas Bass Nation Facebook page, also the Idle Zone Syndicate YouTube channel, but I think it's live on Facebook on the Kansas Bass Nation Facebook page. Let me see if I can make sure I get that right. Yeah, I think that's right. We'll roll with that. So there's a couple other things that we have going on. Tomorrow, Zeke Anderson in studio. I do this show once a year. I've done it with a couple different guys. I'm going to bring Zeke back in. If you guys want to sharpen your off-season fishing, mainly across the South, where you don't get hard water, but you can fish all year. If you're not a big hunter, not in the tree stand, chasing big crappie is entertaining. It's fun. It makes you dialed in and better for when bass fishing starts. Zeke is a professional crappie angler. Then we're going to go out and try to catch some afterwards, but he's going to talk about, he's also an accomplished bass angler. We're talking about that transitioning from bass to other species. And then Frank is back on Thursday with a live all new day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. But love having Charlie Hartley on. Love the enthusiasm that Charlie Hartley has, and I have no doubt that he'll catch an 8-pounder on top water today. That's all we got. We'll talk to everybody same place, same time tomorrow. Later.